What's going on, you guys? Thanks for coming by. I am talking today about a serious problem I ran into with my app on Google Play. Pretty derelict of me to have missed that, but I guess you live and learn. And this, we're talking about what version we're talking about 1.0031, which was released back in July. I updated it I got away from this version in November, early November, I think it was. And then I have another version, 10033 is the latest, and whatever problems I'm talking about today, hopefully, God willing, they don't exist now in the existing versions, at least as far as I was able to tell. One of the biggest problems is, in short, it was a memory leak, right? It was a memory leak, and it would slow down the app and then eventually cause it to crash. And so I'm just here to explain a little bit what I ran into, and some things that I tried, and some things that worked, and what I eventually ended up doing. The first thing I noticed, like I said, was I pound the app. I'll hook it up to my car and pull some wires out, cause some errors, and just boom, 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 boom. I mean, for like a couple hours, just run the app once, and it doesn't take hours to crash it, but in casual use, it may never crash on you, and it may take hours, because if you close and reset the app, the whole thing fixes itself. Fully close the app, where you're like close all, that would clear the problem out, and you're starting, it always starts real nice and fresh because the memory is nice and loose and everything. So, but the problem is you just can't have that, and I didn't know what it was. I just saw that it was crashing after a lot of use. And I wasn't even sure what use it was. Was it a lot of communication? Was it a lot of, because I have some pretty big lists in here, right? And the live data. Was it the size of those lists? Was it every time the data was coming in? What was it? I didn't know what it was. Turns out it was a combination of a lot of different things. It was like a really messy problem. The basic thing is I needed to be much more disciplined and clean about the objects that I was creating. One of the biggest fallacies we find, right, in practical writing of applications is that, yes, everything has a garbage collector, and what's interesting here is you got Java garbage collector, you got Android garbage collector, you have .NET garbage collector, and they all don't really work at the same time. So that's... so there's a garbage collector, but the fallacy I was referring to is that the garbage collector will take care of everything, and it will, but the thing is it can't read our mind, and when we leave a reference set, right, it's just that's what we did, and there's nothing to be done about it except for us to mine the problem and fix it. Okay. So the first way that I noticed I had a memory problem is just plain old Visual Studio output right at the bottom here. So I have my app here, and let me just sort of just navigate anywhere, and what we're looking at is the lower right part, like the gray part. Let me expand that up a little bit, right, just to see what's going on the output over here. And whatever, we're not really looking for what we're looking for is memory figures, which at points will report to us what's going on with the memory. Do we have any? I'm just looking for a reference point. Okay, that's fine. Let's just go in and out. Here we go. This is one. I think if this is one. Is this one? What is wrong with me? Come on. It is. It is. It's just okay, that's what it is. Sorry, everybody. Okay, here's the number I'm looking for. This is our gauge, right? We're using 10 megabytes, and 55%. We're at 55% memory already. We didn't even do anything, and we're using 10 megabytes. And what it'll do is it'll start giving us extra memory that we really don't deserve. It's like when you give a kid something it doesn't deserve. That's what the system will do for us for a little while. Oh, I have these breakpoints. Let me just let that go. Sorry about that. That's what was hanging me up. I had a breakpoint. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at these numbers. So far, let's just say we're at 55% at 10 meg. Fine. I'll come back. Just zoom around a little bit. I'm not even looking at the screen. I'm just exercising this. Let's just zoom around. Okay, so let me, oh, it wasn't rolling. Let's roll all the way to the bottom. Okay, where are we now? Let's see. 54%. It's not, okay, 11 megabytes. Right, this is not a disaster, right? 11 meg, we were at 10. Look, we even had more free. It was 55 before, right? So it looks okay. But what happens is, as we go on and on, let me put us at the end here, so that we'll roll with these. Right? Let me see. So let me just keep. Yeah, there we go. So just keep moving around. Oh, I think I have another breakpoint in here somewhere that stopped. Do I? Yes, I think I do. Yes, stop. Go, go, go. If I let it hang too long, the threads will get all entangled. All right, so just back and back and around. Okay, so where are we at now? Let's just take a look at where we are. I'm going backward. Okay, let's any memory. Here we go. There's a memory report. 12 megabytes, 49% free. Okay, so there's no reason to belabor this, right? If I just keep doing this percent free, well, like the stock market, it'll float up and down, but it'll slowly actually go down. And my amount of memory will climb. And it will fight with it. It will free it, and we'll get more and back. But what we'll do is we'll see a trend, right? So I saw this, and I'm like, oh man, I don't even know what's going on in here. And so the next thing I do is now let me stop. Now I'm going to just completely stop. Stop. I have this unexpanded. Let me expand that. Okay, there's my stop button. Okay, so let me stop that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm coming back to the app. Now remember, this is a debug version on my Android here. So let me run the debug version. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay. And what I'm going to do is hook up Android Studio. Now, this is not Microsoft, right? This is like this is Android whatever. You can find this Android Studio. And there's a tool in here under Tools. It's not displayed because it's actually already up. It's the profiler. See at the bottom here? But if it wasn't out, here, like if I, whatever. This is not like comfortable like a regular application I'm used to. But the profiler is gold. So you hit the plus sign. This is the actual phone that's plugged in. And here is my app running on the phone. So now I can independently, outside of Visual Studio, now I'm profiling my app. So the app just started, right? So this is the memory. There's all kinds of things here to profile and look at. So what I did is I just clicked into the memory, right? There's a bunch of things here, and I just clicked, boom, into memory. And then memory's divided up into all these things. See that? Following my cursor there, those numbers. So look at the very bottom, it says 174. That's basically the number I'm looking at, right? That's the total amount of memory we're using. And and you can see what I'm doing is I'm scrolling backwards, including the time coming in. That when we started, we just kind of had a little bump. So now let's exercise this and see what happens. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to go into vehicle status. I'm not hooked up to a car, and I'm going to try to get the status. Whoops. I'm not at the end. Sorry. Let me get to the... Okay. There was action happening, and I had us zoomed out because I was messing with the scroll. Okay, so now it's moving with us. So you see there's a big bump, and then it kind of controlled it, pulled itself back, and now we're at 212. Where did we start? I forget. Well, I can just look. 170 something. Now we're at 211. This is okay. Because what'll happen is some things won't get instantiated or created until they're used, and that's real common practice. Lazy loading, I guess, is a term that refers to that sort of approach. And then you see as I open things that memory increases, and this is okay. That's what memory is for. Okay, there's a good sign. That's a great sign when you see it decrease like that, because then it deallocates. It says, okay, I used some objects. Nobody's using them anymore. I'm putting them back. You get the memory back. But look at the general trend of that line. It's kind of slowly on the increase, right? That's kind of the first thing I saw. That's that whole general upward. See this whole, all of them are just and here's the garbage collectors at the bottom. It's just generally going upward. And what is this little bump here? Are we going to get another one right here that goes up? And it could be that the garbage collector to me is, there's a lot going on there I don't understand, but that looks like it's trying, right? So now what happens is, this is what now I really don't know at this point. Now I'm observing this and I'm saying, oh shit, man, I better get on something, because you just can't have this out on the App Store like this. Right? See, it's just building up, and to a point that's okay, but that has to stop. At some point, the memory has to peak out. So, of course, then I'm like, okay, there's a point where I should be able to use this app, just go crazy, hitting a bunch of things, just doing what a user hopefully would never really try to do, just opening and closing things. And at some point, this app needs to just calm down and stop creating memory, right? And the sad fact of this version, or it's a good fact because we learn from our mistakes, right? The thing about this version, see, now there's some garbage collecting. That is like, see, then you get some hope and you say, look at that. That's great. But over time, now let's look at this whole app's lifetime here. Look, see this? It's just not good, man. This is bad stuff. If you just extrapolate into the future, how much time do we have before the Android system or the Java system in there containing there is about to say, you know what? It's like you have a yard, right? And you build your house in your yard. How big is the township going to let you build your house before it's like, you know what, man, you're hanging over your property lines, and it's going to shut you down. And that's what happens, is the app just gets too big, too full, too much memory, and it just keeps allocating over and over and over. So, okay, so fine. Okay, so then it's like, oh, cry a little while, whine and whatever, chastise yourself and complain how stupid am I, but you got to fix the problem, dude, right? So how did I fix the problem? It was a myriad of things. Basically, you have to go in there as a process. And this version has this app shell on here, and I found a problem with the app shell that I couldn't really control, so I had to abandon it in terms of getting this memory under control. Let me show you something right away. So now let me just close this completely. And I'm back to over here, and I'm going to start the debug again. So now I got Visual Studio. I'm detached from this I'm detached, right? That's stopped. That's over. Okay, so now I got a fresh new, and I don't care about the memory right now. I know what's going on with the memory. I don't need to see that or depress myself looking at it, right? So it was days, it was weeks actually looking at this. So let me just cut to some of the more interesting points. What I'm doing here is I'm setting breakpoints in 2 of the views. Now this was more a matter of objects and instantiation and lifetimes more than view model view, or XAML or any of that kind of clever stuff. This was more, what do they say, meat and potatoes. This was more baseline stuff. Okay, so what do I have here? So let's look over at the app, okay? I didn't do anything yet, and I just set 2 breakpoints. In fact, I set 1 breakpoint in the setup page, this button here, and I set 1 breakpoint in the vehicle status page. Right, they're views, whatever they are, they're content pages or something, I don't know. But they're basic views. So it's in the code behind, in the constructor, right, is where the breakpoints are. So the constructor for this status page and the constructor for the setup page. So let me go ahead and just hit setup. And what do you expect? Of course, it just stops there. Boom. Fine, thanks. We don't care really right now. It's not for this discussion what's going on in this constructor. Although you might see, if you're clever, there's a red flag for you maybe if you're looking at that constructor. And I mean, I just gave you one of the big answers. And then that's fine. So let me go back home and let me come back to setup. Oh, well, what do you know? The setup page looks like it's going to be there for the lifetime of the app. That's fine, actually. No problem. These events handlers I set up here, they're only going to need to be destroyed at the very, very, very end of the application. And I think I'm okay with that. I don't think these handlers, well, let me just not be cute about it, right? Handlers are a big problem. You create these handlers and you do not detach them, that's a major problem of objects that you're using and then throwing away. Forget about it. You create these handlers, those objects will never get garbage collected. So there you go. I hate when people belabor, I'll try to be clever about it. Let me just, when it comes to my brain, I'm just going to try to give you the information, right? So handlers, event handlers, you create them. You have to uncreate them somewhere. In this page, it's not in this version. Well, I was oblivious in this. This version that we're looking right here. The code is oblivious to the problem, right? So we're looking at this code for the problem. So this was a red flag. Although these particular handlers were not a problem, as I showed you, right? They never get created again, and they will only need to be destroyed at the very end of the program. Which I don't do a negative because there is no, and this is another problem. Even if I make this iDisposable, I implement iDisposable, I don't see it getting called. And I even had an issue where I created a trigger in the XAML just for the code, not for the model, but for the code behind a XAML trigger that would call through a named component the iDisposable on this view, and it still didn't freaking help me. So I went through all kinds of crazy stuff trying to dispose this stuff. So you got to know where to mount your battle, where you're going to need to worry about disposing stuff and not. Okay, so now that's half the story. Now let's get to the other part, right? So let's go back home. There's vehicle status. It's another page. It's actually the same kind of page as a view or a content page or something. It's just not relevant, but it's some kind of view. I go here. Okay, fine. The snapshot page is what I call the status page. Here's a constructor, bunch of stuff happening in here, and the same deal, right? So what? Not so what, never so what, but now we see a couple bunch of handlers being hooked up here. Well, we're not going to go into all that, but the constructor got called, it went past, right? Just like the other one. Let me come back. Go to setup. Breakpoint's still there. Never stopped, right? Now, you might, if you're smart, you know what's happening now. So I come here. Now, oh, shit, the constructor gets called. Wait a minute. Did that really happen? Let me back up again. The constructor gets called. Damn. So this is like the first, when I'm looking at this, the first thing I see is that when I use app shell, now app shell is using syntax like this. See this one I'm highlighting here? App shell is I think it's a NuGet thing. I forget even how I put it in the app. I believe it's a NuGet. App shell current go to async. This is how you go to routes that you have set up in your app shell file, right? As opposed to routes that are set up straight in the XAML. See, this XAML right here are these three buttons. Here I have the home, the setup, and the about, right? Which is, if we go, whoops, come on. If we go home, right, this is the XAML created buttons. But all these other navigation buttons, which I thought were going to act the same as these buttons here, and they're not acting the same. These routes that I've set up over here, for all these different pages, all of these routes will instantiate every single time that I call them. Now, maybe there was a way that I was handling this or something, but I threw all this out. I threw all the app shell stuff out. That's why, let me see. In the newer versions of my app, right here's like a latest version of my app. There isn't. These buttons are Android. These are the back end, but there is no more app shell thing happening now. And all of my pages in the current app instantiate once because I'm in control. And the way that that's done is real. Now I'm switching over to the current code. And the way that I handle this, what I do is I create a bunch of properties on my application for each page that I intend to use. And then through some navigation events, basically each page at its bottom, here, home page, for example, each page at its bottom handles, where is it? Handles through the older method of navigation async. So it goes to the current app, it gets the existing page. If the page doesn't exist, it'll create it. And this is the only place that the pages are created, and they're created once. And that's it. So when you run the newer app, when you go to a page, it'll take a second to get there, but then after you go there once, it's like a flash. Any page, the first time you go there, it'll take like a split second, and then it's a flash. So what you'll find is after you use my app see now how showed the circle there, the wait circle. Now it's almost a flash because all these pages are being created over here on the right are created if they don't get created. If it's not null, it doesn't do anything. It just goes ahead and uses the page. So I needed to have better control over how my pages were essentially being instantiated. So what I did is rather than trying to, and I fought with this for days, back to the old version. I fought for days trying to. I mean, I implemented. Where's the where come on, mama. Where is the right? Here's the original snapshot page, right? That would keep getting instantiated. I implemented iDisposable. I mean, legit iDisposable implementation here with the finalizer part and all the is disposed, the whole 9 yards, how Microsoft recommends, but it would never get called by the framework. And then that's what I was talking about before about the triggers. Then I would call it through the triggers because I wanted to keep the app shell stuff. But in the end, I couldn't. But actually, I'm pretty happy with the way that my app turned out because now every single page is treated the same. I could not get this is the new code, right? Which is all I do is I create a property for each page that's set to null initially. Did you know that you could do this to implicit properties, right? You create a property that has an implicit backing field. Did you know you could actually still set it? I didn't know that until I was like 89 years old. Anyway, and the first one, I just instantiate the home page first as my navigation page, and that's it. I move on from there, and I forget. There's some other kind of interesting things that I do to get these navigation things working. But in the end, the idea is that you need to know what your objects are, where they exist, how long they exist, and are they just being reinstantiated over and over again? And that was basically a big, huge, major issue because it was just using up memory, piling it up. And then of course I combed now I think that was really the primary problem, but after that I ended up combing my application for, I think there were some issues in here for that was another thing. Each one of these pages in the original, here's another thing. If you do on appearing or on disappearing, you're probably not as dumb as I am, but just in case you are, God bless you. But in the original pages, right, I was doing this appearing and disappearing, very, very fundamental part of all of these views is handling these two, not handling them, but taking advantage of the fact when they happen to do things in your pages, like closing open sockets and things like that. And all kinds of other things, resetting controls and all kinds of things. But the thing is, I created delegates here, and there's no reason to create delegates. I created them in every one of the, look at all these views in here, right? All these views. I created these delegates and all these views. And when I was redoing refactoring, I realized I don't need to do that. There's an override. I'm so stupid. Where is it? Where is it? Come on. Oh, here's one of my disposes that I never used. Come on, where freeze frame I don't think has. Let me go into DTC codes page. Right. Instead of the on appearing and on disappearing, they it's an override of the view of, I believe this is an override of view of the a page. Okay, page. So you don't even have to create the stupid delegates. Why create the references and everything to create the oh my goodness, right? So you just want to be careful. Don't create. This is it just got by me. I guess when I was in a rush, right? I said, this on appearing. Oh, look at that! I can use that. And what I should have done first was come down here and say, protected or public or whatever, protected, override, and then just seeing what my options were. They're not going to list on appearing because I already used it, but do this before you start creating a bunch of freaking references with, event handlers and things, man. It's like so not necessary. So here's all the stuff that was in all those, and it's just, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. And my constructor, right? You don't get that funny feeling with those pluses, plus equals is sitting in there. So this really, so the two things were instantiating your objects in my Android app, man. I decided what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be clever about creating and destroying everything. I'm going to create a footprint in the app. I'm going to let that thing exist for the duration of the app. I don't have a debug to profile the current app, but I should do that. I'll do that in another video. I'll just profile the newer app, and you can see the memory plot just stays nice, and it peaks out around 3, and then if you let it sit, it'll go down to like 250. It's just nice. But that was the main thing. So let me, once again, to summarize, the main memory issues that I had were views being instantiated every time I went to go to them. If you have a view, like I have this vehicle status, I'm going to go there. Maybe I'll come back, and maybe I'll go there again, right? If you have this kind of sort of thing going on in your app where you're opening pages and going to pages, leave them open. Unless you can verify for sure that the framework, or you have some way to dispose of them, because I could not get them disposed either by sort of leaving them up to the framework. Like you saw before, this app shell, which one do I have up? The app shell that I took out from the original, right, that used these commands. When it would spawn off right here, what I have highlighted, when you call this readiness, right, which is actually this monitors page, it would instantiate the page, and I could never verify that the framework, the shell framework, whatever it is, was disposing it. I couldn't verify that it wasn't disposing it, but when I removed the whole app shelf, when I removed this stuff and started doing this other sort of really simplistic kind of, this stuff, just instantiating my way once, the memory problems cooled out and went away. So control the lifetimes of your objects. You're better off just leaving it in memory, letting it sit there the whole time. If it's going to just constantly, if you can't dereference everything in it, just do that. The other thing is your handlers, your event handlers. That's interesting. I think I showed you that in codes page, right? See, there's some. Actually, yeah. Yeah, see this? See this? I'm actually taking these off. So while this page is not in view, these handlers are dereferenced, is what I'm saying. So every time you create a handler, you want to dereference it somewhere, even if you don't think it's going to happen. You want to have somewhere. That's not really very smart, right? No, you want to provide, before you even think about whether it can happen or not, you want to provide a means to dereference your event handlers in these Android projects for sure. And if you can't verify that they're going to get dereferenced and you're going to keep going back and hitting and recreating that page, you're better off just recreating it once and leaving it in memory. Have I repeated myself like 90 times already? This was a big major, it was a nightmare when I found it. And I published in July and then ran all the way to, like, I found the problem in early October. It took me all through October to really nail down the problem. I also fixed some other things and added some things. I added plots to it recently too. Anyway, I won't go into all that. But this was basically an issue of me failing to profile the memory of the app and what was going to go on long-term use over the app. I believe I've handled that, and I've also learned now, because now when I design, I know beforehand that this would be a problem if and it wasn't that bad to solve once I sort of focused in on it, but it's good to know about this stuff before you do it. So just, always think about when you new up things, because remember, you're going across, your .NET is translating to Java, which is translating to Android, and man, you got to just believe some things are going to get lost in the mix, right? All right, well, that was just, I don't even know if that was thorough or not. I wanted to share with you guys. I know you came over to this channel for a little bit more technical look at what's going on. So I hope you appreciated my chart here, my profiler. Where is this thing? Android Studio is what this is. This is just an awesome thing. And anything that you have running, do I have anything? Oh, my thing's still running. So I can come over and profile. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing. My app was completely designed in Visual. Can we crash it? Should we try to crash it? All right, let's try to crash it, right? Let's do it. Come on. Right. I'll give up if it's too hard, but I'm just trying to communicate. I believe the best way to crash this version of this app, I shouldn't even. All right, you guys are all right, so I'll show you. All right, version 131. The best way to crash is just to navigate to the page. You don't have to try to communicate. Just go to the pages. Just move around. You don't even have to hit get status. I believe all you have to do is navigate around. Look at that. Just open and close pages, because every one of these pages is going to get the constructor just keeps running on these pages, and those event delegates just keep getting recreated. And you know what happens when you create, here we go. Yeah, see, the performance is starting to get funky. It's starting to get very unhappy. What do we got here? 285. Oh no, it's still, see, it takes a while to get this thing messed up. All right, maybe it's gonna take a long time. Anyway, all right. So it sometimes when the car is hooked up and there's no waits, there's no timeouts, I can blow through, and I can read some freeze frame and read some data. I can get it to crash faster. But you get the picture. I mean, I'm kind of happy it's not so easy to crash, but it'll definitely crash if I just keep going. I know it will. And that was the funny thing, because I used to try to run all kinds of stuff off the car, but I knew all I had to do is see how it gets slow? It's like, whoa, what are you asking me for? That all I had to do is just keep coming in. Yeah, see the memory? Oh, see the memory just keeps climbing up and up. Where are we at? 294. See, it's still lower than the app uses now, but at least the app now doesn't keep going. It'll surpass, like, the app. This is just about where the current app. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not going to wear us out trying to crash it. You get the picture. You see what I'm saying. See, even garbage collecting, you know. Well, it's better to be paranoid than to be non, to be indifferent, right? And I think I was paranoid. I wasn't paranoid. It was crashing. It was really. I'm trying to convince you guys it was crashing. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I'm talking too long already, aren't I? Okay, well, look, hey, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. I love all you guys. It's the Christmas season. Happy Christmas. This Google app, this thing, I'll put the links for it down below. It's on Google Play right now, and all that jazz. And yeah, so have a great day, and I will talk to you guys. Oh, I don't know when. I'll catch up with you guys, and and those of you who know my other channel, I'll see you over there. All right, brothers. Later.